Hello everyone. Good morning, dear friends, dear entrepreneurs. Welcome to our Café&Croissant, May Café&Croissant. I hope you're good, you're healthy, you're safe, and in particular you're happy. At Fongit, we are full of energy. We are here. I'm talking from Plum today. And it's great. It's a great gray May day, a bit of rain, which is good because for people like me who are allergic, it is bad. It's a benevolent rain, so we are not confused like being a virus carrier. So with those knees, we are okay. I hope you're great. You stay very very well. I miss you, and we all miss you. We miss the community, and we try to keep the community alive as much as we can, and as close as we can with this Café&Croissant. Last time, this time we're going to have a joint Café&Croissant. So we are gonna have a Café&Croissant Fongit together with Geneus. That is why I'd like to welcome Ingeborg, the head of the Geneus program, who should be there. Hello, Ingeborg.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. I just almost finished my coffee.
Okay, great. I'm just using now the time to finish mine as well. Thank you.
How was your croissant?
It's fantastic. It's virtual. It's mostly virtual, so it's
good for the diet.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, no matter what summer is approaching, so it is good to take care of it. So Ingeborg will tell a bit about Geneus, about the update of Geneus. But I think we also have someone else who will help us in the Café&Croissant today. Is our James, our head of the coaching practice as well, the Fongit Force program. James, hello. You're muted, James. James, you're still muted. So, but we see you that you are alive. You're there. That's good. And I think you will have.
Good morning.
Okay. Yeah, now we hear you. Great. I also would like to welcome all the Fongit team that is distributed but still very active. We have Evelyn, our head of marketing and comm, in the behind the scene, making the tech. Voila, ciao, Evelyn. And we also have all the Marcom team animating the chat, where you can post your comments, your questions, anything we can do for making this Café&Croissant as interactive as possible. We also have our admin office that is there 20 meters away from where I am now, and working to make the Fongit smoothly going on. So today we have many interesting things to tell you. So I think we can start with the first bit of information. That is this one, probably. Yes, yeah. It has been the strangest back to school date. Hairdresser reopened, so I hope you don't have the same haircut as this funny animal has. But it's true that we're living in a very weird situation, and so we try to adapt to it with some good spirit and some good flexibility. The important thing is that we try to get to this new normal, this what we already called last time, this low touch economy, in the most natural possible way. I think that the most important thing we need to tell you today is about the emergency funding, the new emergency funding that is available now for Geneva tech startup. Remember, we discussed about this last month already. 2 months ago, we introduced the concept that it was very important to support our startup in particular during this moment of crisis, trying to help them bridging the situation of a lack of financing. So we have been trying at Fongit always to support you with the best information and with the best tools possible. Today, there is the concretization of something that is real, is there, and is available for you. So this is the big news. We're going to come back on this later on, but I'd like you to know that finally we have a measure which is a combined and done in collaboration among cantons and the federal government, providing funding for tech startups during this period of crisis. This is an incredible effort that all the actors, federal and cantonal, at a political level and administrative level, have been carrying on for really supporting our startup scene in Switzerland. But I will get back to this because it is very important and very relevant for all of us. I think that before getting to this, we can mention some good news of our companies. Last month, for the people, for the ones of you that were participating to our Café&Croissant, we wanted to put we wanted to stress the fact that during this difficult period of crisis, that are a bit changing our way of living, of thinking of the world globally, some companies were doing very well. There are a lot of opportunities in this period of changes, and this is what we are trying to propose also today. We have, for example, two of our companies. One is Therapet, and the other one is V Labs. One is MedTech for using proton technologies, and then the other one is augmented reality that have been selected in a very prestigious. Probably the most important startup competition, Swiss global that we have is called Venture.ch, which is a competition supported and promoted by many main actors such as McKinsey, Nestle, IBM, UBS, Bueller, Six. And the Therapet and V Labs have been selected among the finalists. In the five sectors: health and nutrition, and industrial and ICT. Sorry, V Labs is in ICT. So we really look forward to see how it goes. But it's really a great achievement already to have the finalists. I remind you that we had in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, yes, or maybe 19, one of our company, Ebamed, a Fongit company, that won the final prize of this competition. So it's really a very good signaling factor that for clients and for investors for the future. So congratulations to Therapet and V Labs. The other company I'd like to mention today is the Taurus Group. Taurus Group is a security and a blockchain company that works on infrastructure solutions for digital assets. In particular, their clients are all the financial actors. I consider this company like a real good examples of what innovation is in Switzerland in particular, which is this type of very tech-driven innovation, niche and B2B. So these are typical what we could call a fintech company, but trying to serve clients in the B2B. So banks are their clients. So they're becoming now the leaders in the space, a bit like in the 90s, another companies that was based in Geneva becoming a worldwide leader in the sector, which is called Temenos. So Taurus, in my opinion, is a very good similar analogy to what Temenos did some years ago. So really all good for Taurus, because they just announced a couple of weeks ago a fundraise with more than 10 million raised from strategic investors, including Arab Bank, Switzerland, Investis, et Lombard-Odier, who put money into the company for developing and making it the new standard for solutions, digital for digital assets for the financial system. So that's great. So well done. Now, I think that is the moment to talk about the solution, the emergency funding solution that Geneva Canton, in collaboration with the government, has set in place. I invite you already starting now to put any questions you might have, any comment on our chat. We will try to answer you at the end of this presentation, and also about this measure. It's not an easy one because it involves different actors. We have been trying to do it as easy and as startup friendly as possible, and we're really trying our best to give the support you as entrepreneurs you deserve. The first thing I'd like to mention is that Fongit will be the entity coordinating in the Canton of Geneva all this effort. This is, I think, I'm very proud of this, and I think it's a great achievement for Fongit that has been recognized in its role of supporting in the Canton of Geneva tech startups. It's a big element of trust that we hope to deserve from the Canton of Geneva, from the Confederation. So Fongit will handle all these requests, will evaluate these requests, and will make recommendation to the state and to our board for the final decision. So I'd really like to congratulate Fongit for that, and all the team that worked very, very hard to make this achievement. Now we have this. Now let's make it work. And how does it work? First of all, what we're talking about here, the measure is a credit line. So it's a government-backed loan, which will be guaranteed by both the Swiss Confederation and the state of Geneva. So it will mean that as a startup, you will be able, based in a canton which is participating to the program, as a startup, you will be able to submit your application, and I'll tell you in a moment how to submit the application, and get a loan up to 575,000 Swiss francs, almost 600,000, for covering your cash constraints during these months. The idea here is that you can have your operational costs covered by this measure. You need to think about this measure really like a bridge loan, helping you to get through this period, this difficult period of time, until when the financial market will reopen normally and you will be able to raise money elsewhere. So the idea that the federal and the cantonal government wanted to give for this measure was really to make it as a bridge loan covering a temporary market failure, the market failure of not finding investors. So that is why what I'm going to present you and all the criteria are trying to address this issue. So it's not for developing companies. For developing startups, you have the traditional investors. It's just for allowing startups that are arriving at the end of the cash available, this additional month until when the financial market will kick back in, and then you can raise money elsewhere. This is very important because so you understand the criteria, you understand if you're eligible or not, and you understand what you can do with this money. So it's about almost 600K you can get with this measure, and it will be 2/3 guaranteed by the Swiss Confederation and 1/3 guaranteed by the state of Geneva. The state of Geneva in particular indicated Fongit as the entity that will analyze the dossier and also make this guarantee, this bank guarantee. So the federal measure covers up to 1/3 of the annual operational costs. The cantonal measure, which is a bit more, it's a different in this case, covers up to 20% of the total investment raised over the last 3 years. It's a different criteria for identifying the same issue, which is how do I bridge the months? How do I calculate the months I can bridge for the startups until when the startup is able to raise money again? Then it's going to be a 0% interest loan, and will be reimbursed over 7 years, or as soon as you have no more financial difficulties. So in particular, as soon as you will be able to raise money again, you will reimburse this loan. Okay? Who is this for? So who are the startups eligible for this loan? You will see here there are criteria that the federal government provides, and then other criteria that each canton that decided to apply and endorse this measure decided on their own. So the federal government, the philosophy here is that the federal government said, I don't know which are the policies for each single canton when it comes to startups and when it comes to in invest in innovation and new technology. So I need to give freedom and autonomy to choose in terms of the specific criteria for defining as startups to the single cantons. By the way, I remind you that there is not even such definition of startup into the Code d'Obligation Suisse. So you need to understand that the federal government had to make a kind of a stretch into their minds in order to get to this measure. So I really salute this because it has been an incredible effort. At SECO, they're doing a great job, and even at the Canton de Geneva, the Département de Développement Économique, le DD, is doing a great job trying really to address all the needs for our startups, our suffering startups. So the criteria of the federal government might be different than the cantonal ones. Most of the time they are. And in particular for Geneva, the Geneva criteria are a bit more restrictive than the federal ones. And I'll give you some examples in the eligibility criteria that I'm going to mention here. The first criteria is that the startup needs to develop tech innovation. So it's a science-based innovation. And in Geneva, they need to address one of the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. This is a strategy of the Canton of Geneva supporting this type of technologies. And in particular, the emphasis for the Canton of Geneva has been put towards life science and environmental projects. This is a political decision that, in terms of strategy, the Geneva Canton decided to take. The second element, which is very important, that I already mentioned before and I repeat it again, these companies need to experience a temporary cash shortage due to the ongoing crisis. The typical target for these measures, are companies that were supposed to fundraise in the next 2, 3, 10 months, and then they know that the fundraising has to be postponed. So it is a really temporary cash shortage. If you raise money 1 week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 months ago, it doesn't apply. But there are companies that were expecting to raise money. They were already planned to raise money in the second half of this year. We know that this will be pushed back. We know this. So this is the role of this measure. It is really a pure bridge. Okay? The third criteria for Geneva Canton is obvious, and the company has to be based in Geneva with the core of their activity in the canton. And it has to be incorporated between 2015, January 15, and March 20. This is another criteria which is a bit more restrictive than the ones of the federal measure, which allows 10 years. The company is created in 2010 until 2020. So Geneva decided differently to consider a startup up to 5 years' time. And the last point, which is also very important, of course, for the Geneva Canton, is that 30%, 35% of their annual operating costs has to be in R&D, and at least half spent in Switzerland. The good news is that, unlike the past, now it is normal to think about tech startups, tech companies in general, being multi-localized. So to have different entities and different working offices around the world where this is more suiting for them. However, we want to have a real presence in Geneva as well. This is what the canton is looking for when it puts this criteria on, and I think it's a fair deal, because it's a taxpayers' money given back to the community, and of course they want to be this money spent for the development of this local community. Okay, so these are the main criteria that you can go and check also on our websites. I will give you in a moment also the where you can find more information. I'd like to mention that if you're not in Geneva, of course, we have several other cantons that apply to this measure already, and we have all the Suisse romande. And this is also thanks to the work of Cautionnement Romand, which will be the entity providing technically the cautionnement. They are doing really a fantastic job in supporting this pretty complicated measure to put in place. We have Fribourg, Geneva, Jura, Neuchâtel, Vaud, and Valais who joined this measure. So you can go and check on specific cantonal websites and the requirements for different requirements for your startups, if you are eligible or not. We have also some part of the Swiss Alémanique. We have the Ticino, as you see here in the cantons. Surprisingly, Zurich has not yet confirmed its participation, which is interesting. It's an interesting choice. So you see how the canton thinks different in terms of the innovation policies. And this is I think the smart way that the federal government decided to adopt for this measure. And please check your local cantonal requirements for that. So last two slides about this measure. What is the best way to enter into this process? Go on the federal portal, which is easygov.swiss. Here you have the same information you can find on the website of the Confederation, where you have a bit the process, how it works. I will not go in the detail of this. I invite you just to go and take the opportunity to apply and to look in the detail of this measure. I will also take the opportunity to answer to a question of Ruben Sand, I see here, that are asking a question about, it's going to last until the 31st of August. So this measure, this federal measure, has a hard stop given by the Confederation, the 31st of August. And there is a total amount of 100 million Swiss francs, which gives, this is the federal part, 100 million. If you put the 1/3 of the canton, you can get the 56 additional. So it's 156 in total, which is not a lot. For the number of startups to support is not a lot. That is why it's kind of a concept, the first come, first awarded, When the mining will be over, it will be over. So there is some sort of good race, in a way, among cantons to speed it up the process and to do it as fast as possible, as quick as possible. And I find it also very interesting and also good in a way. Try to be really as effective, as efficient as possible in order to provide the best support for our entrepreneurs. So let's start the race from Geneva, and let's hope that we can get good projects that are really respecting the criteria we are giving and we have been given by the law. And let's try to benefit from this incredible measure. You can go and see some details, overview, and links at the page of Fongit. You go fongit.ch, you can be directed, or fongit.ch/COVID-19. All the requests, all the application will be funneled through the federal portal, and then later on, Fongit team will take it over, asking you additional information to submit more documents on our platform. We will analyze it, and we will try to be, again, as effective as possible. So I'm really excited for that. And again, I'd like to thank all the people that are making this possible, really, from the federal level, the cantonal level, the Customer Romand, the SECO, everyone there, and of course Fongit, because this is really a big challenge for us, and we are taking that really with a sense of the mission that we want to try to do, serving our community of tech entrepreneurs. So I'll take questions about this later at the end of it, and I think I will go and move on with our Café&Croissant. Yes, telling you that another source of information important is the COVID-19 survival guide. We keep this page, which is a web page, updated regularly. I invite you to go and check all the measures that now, most of those measures you have either already applied for or are already known, like the réduction de l'horaire de travail, like all the elements of the AVS. There is still the government-backed loan for companies having revenues and having also masse salariale, which is a very good starting point. The federal and the cantonal measure I just presented are going in complement to that, so it will be subsidiary to that, and all the other elements are there. And I invite you to go and check it on our website again, because we keep this updated. And please forward this information to any entrepreneur or to anyone of your community that you think might be interested in getting this information. And this is about something other than the traditional measure. There is a bit of a consequence of the crisis as well. Things are postponed or delayed, and I think the one good thing that has been delayed is the getting force of the new medical device regulation. As you know, most of the life science companies, a lot of medtech companies supported by Fongit, for example, they are doing this element as a key milestone for their development. Now, the new regulation, which seems to be still complicated to assess, has been postponed. It was supposed to enter in force this year. It has been pushed back officially until May 2021. So I think this is a good news, in fact, for our startups and for all our community. And I think it's also a good transition for asking Ingeborg, who is more in the life science and who is heading a Geneus program at Campus Biotech. Maybe Ingeborg, you can step up at this point. You can take it from there. You can present this part, and then you can go and also tell us a bit about the updates of Geneus this month.
With pleasure. So yes, indeed, this is a good kickoff of the life sciences chapter of this Café&Croissant. So it's the delay of the implementation of the medical device regulation. Now, this is actually a stricter regulation that is going to replace the one that has been in place since the 90s. And it's true that it is a relief. It's to help companies to really act also on the current COVID crisis. But bear in mind that companies will still need to continue the work to comply to the regulations by next May. But there are plenty of organizations and consultancies that can advise you precisely on the things you need to do as a medtech company. So going to the next slide, I don't know if I have control over that. So plenty of research and initiatives. No, actually, it's that one. Yeah. Plenty of research and initiatives are taking place at the EPFL in Geneva and at the Campus Biotech. And we thought it would be nice to highlight a few really interesting ones. Just bear in mind that we post regularly on our social media channels, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, interesting news like this. So if you want to keep up to date, just check those out. But in any case, we thought to discuss a few. So there's a lab at the EPFL who are developing an app that's going to actually tell you when you've been in contact with somebody who's been infected by the COVID virus. So it gives you an alert, and the Swiss Army has helped to test this app lately. So that's a very interesting one. There's another lab by Professor Fallet in the EPFL and Campus Biotech, and they use. Sorry, I'm going to use my notes here. They aim to understand how human genetic variations actually influence our response to infectious diseases. So they actually help to facilitate drug development and vaccine development. So that's obviously also an initiative that's been stepped up massively lately. Then there is another application, because it's not only fighting a virus, but it's also our mental state and emotions that have probably gone through a kind of a ride over the past few weeks. And COVID Out is a web app that's a collaboration between Geneva-based and French, Paris-based universities that helps people to assess their emotional state, but also to give them advice on what they can do to actually, help yourself, to make yourself better. So this is a list of actions that you can do. Then there's a Geneva-based biotech startup called Combioxin, and that's very interesting because we all know the fear around resistance against bacteria, also bacterial resistance following too many antibiotics. And Combioxin actually has developed a non-antibiotic treatment against inflammatory diseases such as pneumonia, and they recently received FDA approval. So that's also very good news, and this was obviously accelerated due to the COVID crisis. And lastly, this was a company, a startup that already existed a few years, Hello Masks. They developed a transparent material that can be used for masks. So they developed masks initially to be used in children's hospitals, just because it's, it just looks horrible. Everybody, you cannot see their faces. So they developed this mask, which now obviously this becomes much more relevant. So we also have some fresh news from the Campus Biotech Innovation Park. And this is sent to us by our colleagues from the Geneva Chingo Initiative and University of Geneva. So this is, if you look at this slide, it has a lot of abbreviations, but don't worry, I'll take you through it. So obviously Geneva is at the forefront of a lot of technological developments and research, and artificial intelligence and crowdsourcing are just two of those. And this is it's therefore no surprise that the University of Geneva has partnered up in this European project that is going to use crowdsourcing and artificial intelligence to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And next week is the kickoff panel. My colleague Camilla is posting the links to all the information in the chat, and I recommend you to attend this. Then the next initiatives, actually following, you may remember the Versus Virus initiative and hackathons. Yeah. So after the success of these hackathons, the State of Geneva, the University of Geneva, and Open Geneva are joining forces again to test and establish a dozen impactful project, also aimed at meeting the challenges faced due to the COVID crisis. So how does this work? In May, there will be interesting challenges identified that need to be solved. And then following in June, there will be the Geneva Resilience Hackathon. And that should lead to these dozen interesting projects that then can be taken further by the project teams. And the idea is that the teams will do their own crowdsourcing. And if you're successful in achieving this in September, you can be co-financed by the fund up to a minimum of 2,500 francs per project. So the links to that are also in the chat if you want more information. And I also want to mention, we don't have a slide on this, but our geniuses and also the companies at Campus Biotech Innovation Park, we've noticed have been very resourceful in staying up to date with their customers. So there's a lot of free seminars and workshops that they organize. And we just want to make you aware that this is also the information that you can find on our social media. So stay up to date. And now I'm going to tune back into the Fongit team.
Yeah, thank you, Ingeborg. I mean, it's great to see how many initiatives are still are going or are possible to go on even in this complicated time. So it's great to see how lively is the Geneus community. So it's impressive for the job that you're doing there. Thank you for that. I think that. It's important now to talk about what's coming next, and the best person that can guide you and can guide us through this fantastic and excitement set of new events is James. James, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Antonio. Great to be back in. So, in fact, we're able to bring some pretty incredible speakers to our community, and I'll talk about some of those that are coming out. But first, we're going to cover one of the key things, which is startup governance. How do you get a great executive team working really well with a board of directors? What should each be doing? And this is what Pierre will be covering. Pierre has been on the board of over 50 startups. Each year he sees about 25 annual general meetings. And in his 20 years as a founder of the Business Angels Switzerland, and also a director and chairman at Fongit, he's seen hundreds of startups flourish. And so he can tell you what you need to succeed as an executive team and what are the failure modes to avoid. So one of the things we'll be covering is, what should a CTO really be doing as a company grows? And the answer is not coding. We'll also covering, what does a COO do and why this is an ideal complement, an experienced COO, to a good CEO. And then how to run the good board meetings and your annual general meeting. So that's next Wednesday. It's a real pleasure to see him sharing his insights on that. And in addition to that, I'd like to mention there's a very nice report that's just come out on startup governance in Switzerland. And that's a very nice quick read through, because being a board member in Switzerland has some very serious legal implications that you need to be aware of. And that's a very nice read through. But in an hour and a half, you're really going to get an overview of what makes a good startup function from Pierre. It's a real privilege to see that. So, as Ingeborg mentioned, there's been a change in the EU regulatory roadmap for medtech devices. And it's been delayed by a year, but how you get approval for that device is one of the most crucial questions. Do you do it first for Europe? Do you do it first for the US? And we're really lucky because we're having 3 speakers coming in on Thursday the 28th to talk about that. One of them is Andreas Balsinger-Betz. He is the ex-head of legal for Swissmedic. So he wrote the new legal code for Switzerland. So he's coming in, and he's bringing with him Josephine Summer, and then also Naem Akhtar, who is working at a London company that help with the auditing of these regulatory devices. So that's he works at Device Farm. So that combination is really lucky. To give you an insight, the first two speakers are coming from the law firm where Barack Obama met Michelle Obama. So that's kind of the level we're getting in terms of speakers for you. And then we don't know if it's going to be virtual. We don't know if it's going to be social distancing at the coffee machine. But as a community, the time to reconnect is the Café&Croissant on the 18th of June. And we hope to have lots of news about which startups have been awarded some of those grants. We've got quite a few in the pipeline at the moment, 70 in the pipeline. So we're hoping to scoop up the maximum money that goes to Geneva tech startups. And then also, you know, we continue as to build the future at Fongit, and we hope to have some exciting news for you then. So
just one quick question, James. So we confirmed that all these events will be held in video anyway. So at least the first two. So we will have a webinar link that people can have access to, right?
Absolutely. And I'm expecting for the Café&Croissant, we will do a hybrid if some of us can physically be there. I'm actually hoping for the Fongit Force to be in the same room as Pierre. So that would be nice next Wednesday. But yeah, so that's really an advantage because you can see people live and ask questions, but without having to travel across if you're not based at Fongit itself.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, yeah, this slide is about our socials, and it's amazing the work that the Marcom team at Fongit and at Geneus do to filter this deluge of news to give you what is really relevant and impactful to your startup. And for example, this is a personal favorite. It was a video made after a Fongit Force. She's a leading professor in leadership. And Fongit posted, and I think on LinkedIn we had about 40 comments. She posted the video that was made for her at Fongit. She had over 80 comments from IMD alumni, and that's one of the top business schools in the world. So this is an example of a 3-minute masterclass in leadership that you can get online. And I was actually paid to give a workshop on leadership myself, and I put that video in there. So it's really good quality content, and yeah, thanks to the team for keeping us informed and filtering all of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Fongit for Geneva tech startups, and Geneus if you are interested in that life science angle. And with that, we open it to questions. So if you can please put these the questions up in the question bar, we'll start to answer them. But first up, you know, Ingeborg, maybe can you share with us what does it look like working in a innovation initiator that is virtual at the moment? How do you spend your day?
Yeah, that's a very nice question. It's actually surprisingly busy given the circumstances. It turns out that a lot of the activities that we're doing are very well done online. I had a series of coaching events, actually 6 in a row yesterday with industries, and it was extremely efficient and very pleasant to be able to do this from home as well. So the things just continue. We're working, so a lot of the time spent is coaching people online, working on their projects, they're progressing, we're also onboarding new projects. So it's kind of ongoing. We're also doing, we're continuing our events like the Café&Croissant, but also workshops we've done on intellectual property, a more generic one a couple of weeks ago. And we're also organizing a workshop with the University of Geneva at the moment. So it's busy and it's going well.
Great, thanks. And also maybe the same question to you, Antonio. What's keeping you busy and the Fongit team behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean the Fongit team is currently distributed, and but Fongit is open regularly. I think already 2 weeks that we have our front desk up and running. We regularly meet also physically. We tend to follow the federal recommendation by trying to have people first of all safe, and apart from this sanitary measure, health measure, we have two things now going on. In fact, the main things. The one is definitely this new measure that we have to put in place, and you, James, you are involved directly into this massive work of building a process which is resilient and which is scalable and which is state compliant. So with all that goes with that, it means that a lot of paperwork for making this process really fast at the same time as and robust. So this is, I think, a big challenge, and I think we are good to go now. So this is really a big thank again to the team. Really, we are all trying to do our best, but sometimes
I think you lobbied for about 3 weeks. Yeah, 24/7 to get. I think
we were all lobbying. All the people believing in startups and the value of innovation for the growth of the social and economic regions were lobbying about it. And we know that, of course, startups do not come as a first priority, because truly the first priority for any politician was to save and to preserve the existing economy. Of course, the dramatic situation of most of the local industry, the commerce, the retail. So that is a fact, and legitimately, startup could not come as first priority. But as soon as this emergency have been started to be addressed, then of course startup becomes an issue. So this is the first thing. The second thing, that we have business as usual. We still have companies arriving. We still have existing portfolio companies to serve, to support, to try to help in the development. We are companies doing greatly, as you have seen in this Café&Croissant, but also in the previous one. So we try to support regularly our activity. You know, entrepreneurs, as you know, James, is a bit like nature. You cannot stop an entrepreneurial spirit. So you have it all the time coming, and we are there to serve entrepreneurs. So that's it. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, and there's also the admin team that are making sure that bills get processed, salaries get paid for the startups, that people can have audited accounts for their annual general meetings. It's I was contacted by them for some documents for the state auditors, because we're managing government funds. So it's quite an organization. So we have a question about the funding from Como Chain, which is, who should we contact at Fongit if we want to have your advice on our dossier?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we receive a lot of requests, and we need to try to standardize as soon as possible the requests. So I think that everything should be self-explanatory on the website, on all the source of information. By applying, you get recontacted by the people at Fongit, and you can start the process. If you want to have additional advice, since Como Chain is a Fongit startup, you can always refer to your coach, to your lead coach. They can provide a bit of guidance. But this measure does not apply only for Fongit startup. It applies to Geneva startups. So we need to keep this thing as equal as possible, because the goal of this is really to support as many entrepreneurs as possible, even the ones that are not at Fongit, actually. Yeah, there was a question from Anthony. Yes, I'm reading it.
That's right.
Now.
So he says the EasyGov site last week did not include funds raised, just the burn rate. How has this changed, or does Geneva then adjust?
Yeah, thank you for this question, because that allows me to explain again what I tried to explain before. The federal criteria are not necessarily the same as the cantonal ones. So the federal government provide guidelines, and in particular, this 3 months burn rate is a guideline. So if we want to use the federal money, we need to account it for the 3 months burn rate. However, each single canton then decides to apply its own criteria based on the way it sees startups in the canton. And in particular, the political choice in Geneva has been the one to look for startups who received in the past, in the recent past, which is 3 years, an external validation. This is an important point, because it means that a startup able to raise money in the past has been a startup able to show and to prove that it is a good startup in a way. And so it is an additional criteria that adds on top of the one of the federal one. So sometimes those criteria are more restrictive, some others are not. This one, for example, it really depends from the startups, you know. But I think this is a good approach. Of course, every criteria, there is no perfect criteria. There is no perfect criteria. Unfortunately, we had already cases of startups that were incorporated in November 2014, for example, just to give you an idea, and they are not eligible for the cantonal measure, therefore also for the federal measure. And we are deeply sorry for this. We know that unfortunately you need to put the bar somewhere, and sometimes it fits, sometimes it doesn't. The state of Geneva, with our support, try to do the most reasonable way, and we know it won't fit all your needs, and hopefully will fit as many needs as possible.
Great, and we got another question from Adriano saying that, do I understand correctly that applying for both Geneva canton-based and federal government-backed loans can be made with one application through Fongit? And
yeah, thank you for this question, Adriano. In fact, the application will be done in both ways, because you have the federal validation and the cantonal validation. However, in order to process in a correct order all the requests, we ask companies to apply first to the EasyGov, which is the federal one, and then they will be recontacted by Fongit team, and then Fongit team will ask also to apply or to add other documents in the cantonal platform, which is the Fongit platform. We had cases, since the cantonal measure started earlier than the federal one, we had cases where some startups, which is already a good number, I guess, if James, I'm not wrong, about 70 startups already applied, or to our portal first, and then the EasyGov portal was activated. And this actually happened a few days ago, literally a few days ago. So because they are also building at Seiko this platform as we speak. We then ask the companies to reapply to the federal measure. But to make it simple, apart from these cases, and again, we are all really learning by doing here, at Seiko level, at Fongit level, at cantonal level, and at startup level. So you need to be a bit a bit open-minded with that. We are trying to encourage, and we encourage companies to apply first to the federal measure. In any case, for you, Adriano, I invite you also, like all other companies, to refer to your board and ask advice for that as well.
Yeah, and it's an interesting point there that some companies, particularly in Zurich, with board members in Zurich, are concerned that the company might become over-indebted by taking this, but it's a subordinated loan, so that's not really an issue. So we really, and as Antonio said, for a startup, look at fongit.ch COVID-19, the criteria there, the link that you click to get you into the process is start, and then we help you through the process. And we decided that we could ask for 30 documents at the beginning, or we ask bit by bit, getting the right information to be most efficient possible with the startup's time. And it's going quite well at the moment.
Yeah, just to add on what you just said, James, which is very important, when you take this loan, this credit, this government-backed loan, it's under discussion as we speak in Bern, what is called a moratoire CO 725. So it's a moratoire according to the student detachment, so the over-indebted situation. But from an accounting standpoint, it looks like, it seems that this COVID-19 line can be put in the fond propre, so in the capital part. So it's like a subordinated loan, in fact. And we are still waiting for final clarification from Bern about this. But honestly, I suspect it is gonna be. It has to be confirmed, because if not, it's like there's an issue, but it won't be. But again, this is a typical example of problems that we are solving as they come.
Yeah. So yeah, we really warmly recommend you, if you are qualified for this, do apply. If you think you might, it's quick to do, and we can give you a first look and say, look, what are the chances of being eligible for this? But that does make a lot of sense if you're a startup, to get that support to bridge you to your next round of financing. So we got another question, where to find the report on startup boards in Switzerland. That's been answered on the YouTube channel, but we'll post it on the Facebook channel as well, because that's really a great resource that's been provided by the academics in Zurich, and also people that are running the Board Academy that's run by the EPFL Innovation Park. And I found it a real pleasure to read that. It's good common sense. I think it was identified by one of our Marcom team. He said, "Oh, James, look at this." And I was like, "Oh wow, this is great, thank you." So if you're setting up a board, if you're trying to run that, that's great. But also, you got to see really how Pierre thinks about this in action as well next Wednesday.
Yeah. Do you have any other question?
Yeah, I'll just say, look, if people do have any things that they would like to announce, if you're looking to recruit talent, it's very good just to put it in the questions here, because if people are attending this Café&Croissant, they really are at the heart of innovation in Geneva and in Switzerland. And if you have any news to share, please also send it to Fongit. If you're a startup, we can make sure it sees a bigger audience.
Yeah.
Same goes for same goes for Geneus, indeed. So usually we have our 30 seconds to match, which is a very nice initiative created by one of our ex-colleagues, and that's obviously a community aspect that we're missing out on. So we wanted to reintroduce that, at least for the moment, in the chat. So if you have something to say, but again, we get from our partner organizations also sending, they send us slides, and feel free to reach out and do the same.
Okay, so I think that's a wrap.
Yeah, I think it's a wrap. You know, again, it's a nice experience to have this Café&Croissant like this. It's something we should try to find a good combination of the physical world with this. I like also to welcome this Geneus community, which is so active and thriving. So Ingeborg, thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Evelyn, in the behind the scene, and thank also all the team. And most of all, thank you participant, the Geneus community, Fongit community, Geneva startup community, friends, and everyone that can really support the tech entrepreneurs for the future of Geneva. At Fongit, we are here. We are, as always, we say we do whatever it takes to help you out, and please don't hesitate to reach us. And I hope to see you then in June. Maybe it's going to be a hybrid type of Café&Croissant. Hopefully, we're going to see if we can start to see again and to have a coffee together for real. Until then, thank you very much. Thanks, and see you. And blue, right? Blue.
See you next time.
Bye. Ciao.